Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, February 23rd. The time is now 7 p.m. The Urbana City Council meeting will come to order. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu.
Here.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Hersey.
Here.
Councilmember Bishop.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkin.
Here.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
Quorum is present. We may proceed. Thank you. All right, next is the approval for the minutes of February 2nd, 2026, Committee of the Whole meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mary Alice, seconded by Grace. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, that is approved. Thank you all. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes, Chair, I would ask that we add, under reports of officers, a closed session under exception C of the list of exceptions, which is to discuss appointment to or removal of people for a aldermanic seat.
Because you're adding something.
All right. So Mr. Quisenberry has made a motion to add to the agenda. Is there a second? Chris, did you have questions? You looking?
Second.
All right. All right. Seconded by Grace. Motion made by James, seconded by Grace. And I don't need a vote for that, correct?
To change the agenda, we might as well, since we're doing it under additions to the agenda, so we can do a roll call vote.
All right. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey.
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin.
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. That passes. Thank you all. All right. Next, we will have, we'll go into presentations and public input. We'll start with public input. So at this time, any members of the public wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and city. You will have 5 minutes.
Yes, hello, greetings. My name's Dennis Roberts. I live in Urbana, Illinois. I've got 2 topics to address tonight, very briefly. First, I'd like to announce, and perhaps you already know this, that we're going to have a student group come from Thionville, France, our sister city in France. They're going to be arriving in March, toward the end of March. And I'm hoping that the city will welcome them in some event or procedure that would be greeting to them. They're not going to be coming during a time when the city council is likely to meet because it's the 4th week of the month of March. So if there's going to be an event that the city would like to co-host with the Urbana Sister City program, we'd like to hear about it. And I think it would be nice to do something to greet the city, these guests to our city. Okay, and I've detailed some of those possibilities to the clerk. Okay, the second item that I'd like to address is that as a member of the Historic Preservation Commission, and as just a person interested in historic preservation as an individual, you don't know this perhaps, but we had a study session last Wednesday, the 18th, concerning a memorandum of agreement that was new to the Historic Preservation Commission, but apparently had been being developed over a period of 1.5 years with the MTD concerning the future of the Civic Center and the site for the Civic Center. And there's issues about why as a signee to the memorandum, the HPC itself never heard of it before Wednesday night's meeting. I know that we're supposedly been represented by staff, but staff really isn't a spokesperson for the HPC or the commission's, the Historic Preservation Commission. So that's a detail that can be worked out through procedures in the future. But what I want to express was that Professor Joseph Altschulter gave a very interesting presentation. He had made the idea of reconfiguring the site of the Civic Center as a architectural project for his class at the University of Illinois. and they had prepared a total of 60 different design possibilities for the site. And it was with the assumption that the mid-century modern building, which is rather unique and of some value historically to the community, be included in the development of the proposed MTD bus station site if it happens at that location. And what I would like to say is that it was, it has been in the past decided by the City Council that the building was not worthy saving. And the HBC would like to suggest to you, I'm not speaking for the HBC here, I'm speaking for myself, but the conversation was that part of historic preservation is adaptive reuse. And the site, originally considered to be unworthy for saving, and that it was maybe decrepit or that the roof leaked or whatever, it was suggested that adaptive reuse of the site was actually to be considered by SHPO, which is the Historic Preservation Officer for the state of Illinois, and what had to be reviewed by in the memorandum of understanding between the Transportation Department of the state, Federal Transportation Department, and the MTD. So there was a study done, and SHPO decided that the building was worthy of preserving and could be listed on the National Site of Historic Places under two conditions. And condition A is that it was a locus for community recreation, community events, and community culture of value to the community. And criterion C, that it was a strong expression of a modernist design in this community. Now, it was said that the roof needed leaking and there were other problems with it, but I would suggest that any landlord in this city would be required to fix the roof of a building that was not adequate for the community. And so the city is the owner of the property and might want to consider that. And therefore, I think that adaptive reuse is actually a win-win situation, and I would like you to consider it seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other members of the public wishing to speak? Come up to the microphone, state your name. You have 5 minutes.
How you doing? My name is Warren Montgomery. Good evening, City Council meetings. I'm here to speak about a couple things. My name yet again is Warren Montgomery. I'm a local event promoter and DJ who has been actively working to create positive, engaging experiences here in Champaign-Urbana. I've had the chance to bring people together through music and events.
Would you mind putting the microphone a little up? I'm sorry. I was just having a hard time hearing you. Thank you.
Is that better? I've had a chance to bring people together through music and events for nearly 6 years and creating space where people can be safe and enjoy themselves, also while supporting local venues and businesses. My goal has always been to build something that reflects positively on the city and my family and give something constructive to be a part of. I'm here today because I want to right any of my wrongs from prior endeavors, doubling down on what's made me successful thus far and strengthening my relationship with the city. A lot has changed these past 2 years, so I want to make sure that moving forward, I have all of the knowledge and tools, successful collaboration between myself and venue owners, local authorities, and city officials, whether I'm promoting an event or if I'm performing as a DJ. I'd like to request a meeting or gather the knowledge to be on the same page with whomever needs to be present. The mayor, public works, the police chief, anybody who's open to hear and have a space to talk with me. Thank you again for the time, and I look forward to starting this collaboration and endeavors with you guys.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Are there any other members of the public? Do we have any emails? No? All right. We will now have a brief Q&A session with our Ward 4 candidates. At this time, we will ask our 3 candidates to please come to the front table there. I asked our council, that was y'all cue. That was I asked our council members to provide a couple of their most pressing questions for you all to have an opportunity to answer and speak to. So once you get up here, you'll have a minute to respond to each question. But before we get started, if you want to state your name and, yeah, just state your name, and then we'll jump right into it. Go for it.
Turn on the mic.
Yep, there you go.
Karen James.
Verdell Jones III.
Wendy Edwards.
All right. So we will jump right into the question. So I won't mention the name of the council member in which, asked each question, just to keep it, general for you all. But as I said, I'll ask each question. You'll have a minute to answer. There's no specific order, but we'll make sure that you aren't following the same person. All right. So we'll start with Wendy. All right. Y'all ready? All right, here we go. What is your opinion on the proposed surveillance ordinance, oversight ordinance, and what recommendations or questions do you have about it?
Can you clarify what the surveillance ordinance is exactly?
So it's essentially the ordinance around all things surveillance in regards to the city of Urbana. So
Okay, yeah, like for your ALPRs and stuff like that?
correct, all of the
okay.
above.
Yeah, so basically, I think that if you use technology with surveillance and privacy implications, I think it has some potential to help keep people safe, but it's important to basically that it be carefully crafted in terms of so that you're very clear about how your data can and can't be used. Like, for example, some of the Flock stuff was sent to ICE, and I don't think we want that. And I think that there could be some benefit to like some transparency and public input about exactly what those policies are and how our data is used.
Awesome. Thank you.
I would actually question what is the intent behind the technology. Are we using to lower crime? And if so, what is the statistics that show that this is actually going to help towards that? Because a lot of times, license plate readers, things like that, looking for cars that have been used in crimes, most of these cars are stolen. So at what point, what is the red line that we don't cross to where we become a surveillance state? I think the city of Urbana and the citizens of the city of Urbana don't want to have cameras on every corner looking at everything that they do. So we have to find that middle ground of, okay, what are we intentionally using it for, and at what point does it go too far? And as she said, what are we doing with the stored data?
Thank you. Karen?
Mine's a little bit more opposite. Mine is more eyes that we have out there looking and focusing is a lot more help, because what I might see, he might have missed. So on me, I prefer more eyes on all situations.
All right, thank you. All right. The next question, and we'll start with Verdell. What do you think about an alternative crisis response team in Urbana?
As a first responder myself, I actually do not oppose that situation. But what I do want to encourage is that while there are a lot of mental health issues going on, that these can quickly turn dangerous. I could use an example with Champaign Fire Department that happened recently, where we were called out into a mental health situation, and 2 of our firefighters got stabbed. So I think that we have to look at a equal balance between dealing with these calls and providing safety, not just for the first responders, but for the patients as well. That could look at a situation where you have a counselor along with a plainclothes officer. I think a lot of times when you have the bright lights, the sirens, and the kind of the commotion, it adds to the mental health issues. So we have to find that balance of not being overbearing, but also coming at a peaceful environment.
Thank you. Karen?
I actually almost agree, with everything he said. I do think that we should bring in more social workers to be more supportive with our first responders. They do a lot, and I think that they are trained in a lot of things that a social worker, with their education that they do with mental health and with survivors' situations. And I don't want to say that I don't want our police officers to have to take it home, or our fire departments, or our EMTs, but they do see a lot that is things that I'm hoping a social worker would be able to soften what they go home to at night.
Thank you. Wendy?
I agree with the other two that the alternative service providers, like the mental health professionals and social workers, could augment but not replace the police. I mean, I think if you have a violent or potentially dangerous situation, like where people are shooting, you do need to have armed sworn officers going in to deal with that. And I think, in fact, it's fairly common in situations that police officers have to clear a situation before other responders come in. But I think, like, for example, you're dealing with maybe some of the unhoused people or mental illness. I think there is definitely a place for, like, social workers and mental health professionals.
Thank you. All right. The next question. What actions should the city take to reduce housing instability, including renters facing unsafe conditions, rising rents, or displacement? And we'll start with Karen.
For housing, it's kind of hard because, you have these renters out there. Well, you have landlords. They need to take responsibility as to who they are putting into these areas. They can't just say, oh, you can be there, not do a background check, because they need to be protecting everybody in that community. So if you are a landlord, you need to look at who are you renting to, what the situation is. Just because you filled out an application and you put down a deposit does not mean that you have the right to live there. So that's how I feel. And if they don't abide by the rules like everybody else, then I feel that landlords should step up and kick them out and move them on, because we can't just keep housing people that don't respect the law, don't respect your neighbor, don't respect themselves. We have to move on and protect everybody. It's not just you. Don't take it personally, sir. But if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, I don't feel like I should have to put my family in jeopardy.
Thank you. All right, Wendy.
So there's really a lot of facets to what you talked about. You're talking about, I think, basically like safety and livability and affordability. And I don't know that those all have the same solution. I think like there are already some very good things that Urbana does. Like, for example, they have the rental inspection, and I would maybe not mind seeing somewhat more aggressive enforcement of some of the rental conditions to assure that tenants have livable living conditions. Some other cities have rent control. I'm not sure whether that would be feasible in Urbana. So as far as housing affordability, I would say. Yes, I think we need to make sure that there is enough housing that's in decent condition. Okay, sorry.
All right. No, that's all right. Thank you. Verdell.
So I would say that this is a pandemic across America, not just in Urbana. A lot of homelessness, a lot of unaffordable housing. But I think we have to look at the landlords. We have too many landlords who are just trying to collect a check and not providing the adequate living conditions for our citizens. I've been to some of these homes as a firefighter, and there's no way that the people should be living in some of these houses. I think that we shouldn't allow companies that are based out of New York to be owning multi-family units here, because they have no one here to really keep a tabs on them. And we have, as a city, have to really enforce these laws to make sure that basic conditions, that the HVAC is okay, that there's not bed bugs in every home, that there's not rat infestations where there's children. These are things that the city can do to help keep their landlords and these different businesses responsible.
All right, thank you. All right, the next question. What are your feelings about seeing reparations for African Americans? And we'll start with Wendy.
Yeah, so actually, I think there has been already some study done on that, and a very interesting example of that is Evanston, which has actually started to look into reparations. And so I think if we look at reparations for, because slavery and injustice is a very big historical problem, but if we confine it to just injustices perpetrated within the city of Urbana, like housing unfairness or something like that, I think that could be feasible.
Thank you. Karen?
Well, to be honest, I saw this on there and I hated this question because what my answer was when I was going over it, and the question was, what would I do for African Americans? I wouldn't do anything different than the Mexican Americans, the white Americans, anything. We're supposed to be a team. So I don't think that I would look at one person different than the other just because of the color of your skin.
Thank you. Verdell?
I think the reparations talk has been something that's been ongoing for a long time. I think, first and foremost, we can't afford us to throw money at the situation because we're so much in debt everywhere. To me, the most fair and equitable is to be able to provide an opportunity for descendants of Africans to build their own economy and build their own land. That's not going to happen. So I think that the best option would be to be able to provide tax incentives for black businesses, provide economic zones for black companies to be able to come and do international work. I think that you see what's happening in African diaspora and different places in Africa growing and riches that let's allow it to reconnect those African roots back to the descendants of the slaves in business terms. I recently came from Africa. Everyone is in there investing. This could be opportunity for black businesses here to also reconnect and make that jump.
All right, thank you. All right. Sometimes events nationally and internationally result in public participation and request the Urbana City Council to take action or pass resolutions related to those events. How would you balance the need to support the public's need to engage in this circumstance with the need to conduct local business before the council? And we'll start with Verdell.
I think first and foremost is that we are not federal elected officials. We are local officials. And so first and foremost, our duties is to make sure that things in Urbana are running smoothly. Now, we are humans as well. And so I think it is a human decency to be able to project what we feel or what we think as a council we feel about what's happening globally or even in countryside. I think the things with ICE, the things that are happening in the Middle East, these are opportunities for people who we represent to hear how we really feel.
Thank you. Wendy.
So one of the most obvious examples of that is ICE, just the fact that I'm sorry, they've been basically a bunch of goons harassing like seemingly anybody who doesn't look like a white American. And I think a lot of people care deeply about that. So I think that there would be some merit in Urbana maybe trying to pass some ordinances and resolutions if they could think of stuff that would actually work and address that. Because, I think there is some merit in basically as a community standing up and addressing what we feel is wrong. I think we probably should. I think we should be aware of the realities of laws and stuff and make sure that what we are doing makes sense within that, though.
All right, Karen.
Well, I do believe that everybody has their right to feel and say what they have to say. So doing that, if they participate in some kind of a parade or whatever, then I feel that the city should support them as a safety. You don't have to get involved. You do not have to agree with it, but it is their right to say and have a parade as to whether they're like, we like big, black, furry animals. Great. As a city, we're going to support you because that's how you feel. You have the right to express your opinion. Do I need to get in there because I don't like them? Nope, but I'm going to support you as a part of your community.
All right, thank you. All right, serving on city council means becoming a public figure in Urbana. How do you feel public figures should engage on social media? We'll start with Karen.
That's a really hard one because everybody that watches social media, they take it, they twist it, they turn it, they go against you. It's hard to be positive every day and say, oh, he's a great guy, and then he says one thing, and they're like, oh my God, did you see what he said? The one reason why I even applied for this position was because of you, because I see all the great things that you do in the community, and I thought, you know what, there's a guy I think I want to hang out with. So that's how I look at things when I see you guys in the news on the thing. I look and say, is that somebody I want to hang out with? If it's not, then I'm like, okay, great. But I saw that, I thought it was a positive thing, and I was like, I want to be on that train.
All right. I don't know if I should say thank you. This is supposed to be, but thank you. All right, Verdell, go for it.
I think as a public official that you no longer just represent yourself, you also represent the people in your ward or whoever you represent. And so with that being said, there's a greater responsibility to be to carry yourself a certain way. I won't use any names, but there are certain politicians that are out there now that use social media to cause divisiveness. That should not be the case, especially if you're in a situation where you are a part of a mayor or a governor or in a position to unify people. That should be what your platform is used for, is to unify the people, not to divide.
Wendy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Verdell says. What you put on social media, it's not going to necessarily be obvious to people whether you're speaking for yourself or as a city council member. I mean, even if your social media account is public. So I would say, basically, I think you need to think very carefully about what you say, and be aware that it could get screenshotted and blown up and appear in all kinds of places, and just be very mindful of that before you hit post.
Thank you. Just for the record, it absolutely will get screenshots. So. All right. What are some specific actions do you think what are some specific actions do you think the city should take for Philo Road? And we will start with, Wendy on this one.
So actually, I was talking about this with friends, and the truth is, I don't right now have any magic answers for saying, oh, if you do this, this will be so simple it'll work, because I think Philo Road doesn't have any simple answers. Basically, what I would do as a starting point might be to take a look at what other cities have done to revive distressed areas, and I would look not just what has worked, but what hasn't. And I would be mindful that Urbana has some unique characteristics, like saying this was great in Portland or Detroit or Pittsburgh doesn't mean it'll work in Urbana. So I would also bear in mind Urbana's unique characteristics when evaluating that.
This might be an unpopular opinion, but the first thing I would do is remove some of the corner liquor stores. I think this contributes to the downward mobility of that community. I mean, if you go there in the morning or you go there in the evening, you just see people, not being productive citizens. They're continually doing the same things that have gotten them in the situations they're in now. So that would be the first thing. Second thing, I would look to attract various businesses. I wouldn't look to bring another McDonald's. I wouldn't look to bring another KFC. I would look to maybe bring a cafe. I would look to try to invite maybe another Crunch Fitness or something like that. Just to change the mindset of that area. Right now, the area is it's lacking in any kind of inspiration. And so I think that as a city, what we should do is that we should try to do our best to invite any kind of inspiration that we can. Anything.
All right, thank you. Karen?
I agree with that, too. I think that we should look at the community and see what we can do. Like, there's a lot of seniors that live down there. There's a lot of the nursing homes that live down there. How we can bring them into some of those empty buildings and rename them, reestablish them for the community. Why don't we have, like, a library? Or, there's things that children or just families are struggling with that need help, and we could maybe turn some of those buildings into more of an education for the neighborhood. How do you make a meal off of $5? How, if you're, things like that, how maybe reading groups, knitting groups, a lot of those things, you could bring the community together.
All right, thank you. All right, if you had to list your top 3 priorities, What would you want to work on, and what would those be? We'll start with Verdell.
I think my top priority will be continuing the economic growth that Urbana is developing. I think that we have to bring in more tax revenue, and we can't do it by just continuously raising taxes on the people. That's going to continue to push people away and want to move to Champaign. We have to make it attractive to come here and want to spend your money here. And I think Urbana has that quirkiness, has that kind of flair that you don't see anywhere else in Central Illinois that will invite those different kind of businesses to come. I think you already kind of see it happening downtown, and I think that can continue to expand. I always hear the phrase, keep Urbana, Urbana, and I love that because Urbana is a special place. But we also have to think outside of the box about how we could continue to keep Urbana while also be able to bring in funds to be able to fund our different programs. And I think revitalizing Philo Road or creating business zones outside of the downtown or Urbana area could do just that.
So I would say probably my first would be quality of life, including safety. I mean, essentially wanting to have a safe and livable environment for everybody, including things like housing. Second would be basically fiscal sustainability, like including tax base and revenue. I mean, we've got probably about a third of land in Urbana is not subject to taxation, so how will we keep going financially? Sorry, I'm blanking. And I think and so I think probably the third would be infrastructure. We've got some aging, we've got probably for a number of aging buildings and roads. Sorry.
Thank you. Karen?
I'm so sorry. Will you ask the question one more time?
Yes. If you had to list your top 3 priorities, what would you want to work on, and what would those be?
So my top 3 for anybody that's living in anywhere, you want a safe place to come home to at the end of your day of working or wherever you are. So I want police enforcement. I want my roads done so that I can get home, whether it's in the snow or whether it's in the summertime. I want good drainage. So your roadways, your police department, your fire department, those are the things I'm looking for. Safety at home when I get there.
All right, thank you. All right, last question. What do you believe is the city's mission in regard to the city's residents? What do you believe is the city's mission in regards to the city's residents?
Oh, you didn't say who.
I guess I need to tell which one. Karen, you start this one off.
The city's response was what was the question?
What do you believe is the city's mission in regards to the city's residents?
Okay. Safety, expanding them, good schools so that we have higher education, our children move on, and they might even come back, but you have to have the foundation. You have to have the law, the school, and home life.
All right, thank you. Verdell.
I agree. I think safety is the first and foremost most important thing. The basic needs to live a life, be able to have the kids to be able to go to school, be able to have a home over my head, be able to have water to drink, be able to have food to eat. I think those are basic necessities that the city can not so much provide directly, but can encourage with other programs involved. And second and foremost, I think, is the schools. I think our education of our young people is going to determine the future of Urbana. If our education is lacking, or if there's not a sustainable system in place for the continuous education of our youth, then we will be a failure of a city. And then lastly, I think, is the economic growth. Are we continuing to grow as a city? Are we going in an upward mobility direction, or are we falling behind or staying stagnant?
Thank you. Wendy?
I would say basically livability, that we should make Urbana a good place to live overall. Safety, it needs to be basically kept safe. Basically, in terms of not just police, but fire and other first responders. And justice, people need to be treated fairly. And I would say sustainability, that basically both environmental and financial, we need something that can be sustained over the years.
Thank you. All right. That was the end of the questions. I want to say thank you. This is not easy by any stretch of the imagination, so thank you all for taking the time 2 weeks in a row for answering our questions and being with us, and we will be in touch with you all soon. So thank you all. Have a great night.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we give them a round of applause. All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mayor,
No?
we put that after the surveillance ordinance discussion so that everybody else could
Nope,
go
you're
home.
absolutely right. Ignore what I just said. All right, we will now move to council input and communication. Are there any council members? Grace.
Just want to say thank you to Ward 4 candidates for coming and answering our questions. I know some of them can be difficult and you're coming in without maybe all the information to properly answer them, but whoever comes to serve us will have a steep learning curve, I'll promise you that. Also wanted to thank the members of the public who came and spoke, and I would just echo some support of exploring, renovating, and reusing existing buildings. I think that's a principle of green building and sustainability, to reuse and renovate whenever possible versus demolition and complete reconstruction. I don't know all the ins and outs of that building, but we'll just say on principle, I support that where possible. And then also I have some contact stuff I'd love to give our DJ in the audience, just to personally help in whatever capacity. I think city leadership and the systems that be, I think will hopefully all be open to discussing more. Don't know exactly what this is about, but we'll just say from a lifetime of experience here that there's a pattern in Champaign-Urbana when Black people are gathered in large numbers that police often show up, when the same thing doesn't happen when white people are gathered doing the same activity in large numbers. So I don't know if that's what this may or may not be related to, but I definitely support addressing any of those issues possibly before they even occur, because I definitely see that as a pattern in this community. Thanks.
James.
All right, thank you. I also wanted to thank the applicants for coming out and getting a more realistic experience as to what it's like to sit up here and answer questions. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. It really helps us understand more where you all are at with some of the things that are on our plate. Also want to thank you, Mayor, and your team for this process. I'm glad we had a number of applicants. I'm glad we've had a kind of rigorous process that allowed you to have deep conversations and allowed us to ask some questions and, you know, get an idea of who the applicants are. And so I really appreciate how the process has been done.
Thank you. And I'll just say before I go to Mary Alice, I do apologize to you and Grace. I did not see that last paragraph, but either way, we'll make it happen. Mary Alice.
Yeah, I want to correct something that I misstated last time, and I'm going to actually read from Bill Brown, who was the representative from Ward 4. He's the one who sent a letter to City Council, and this is in regards to the increase in the water. So the increase in the water is not for water, it is for sanitary services. And this is what he wrote. The average increase proposed for water is listed as $14, but it varies depending on district and usage. In our central district, with a low usage under 2,000 gallons per month, bills actually go down by 13%. So I just wanted to draw attention to that, and I know the Matt had also looked in and contacted the city of Champaign, who's not at this time wanting to go and challenge this. So thank you, Matt, for doing that research as well.
All right. Anyone else? Chandra, did you have anything?
No, I don't. Thank you.
All right. All right, we will now move to reports of standing committees, which there are none, so we will move on to Committee of the Whole. Councilmember Quisenberry, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor. There is no consent agenda, so we will move to the item on the regular agenda. Committee of the Whole forwarded resolution number 2026-02-008R, a resolution rescinding resolution 2025-10-079R and revoking City Council authorization to accept the fiscal year 2024 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant.
All right, I'll take a motion.
That is the motion.
I'm sorry, a second.
I'll second.
Motion made by James, seconded by Mary Alice. Any discussion? At this time, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
and Councilmember Wilkin is not present. Councilmember Quisenberry,
Yes.
thank you.
All right, and that passes.
And that is all from the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you, sir. All right, we will now hear reports of special committee, which there aren't any, so we will now move on to hear reports of officers on regards to the surveillance ordinance. Administrator White, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. We will start off this evening with the police department.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate you welcoming us all back to discuss this further. I brought along Deputy Chief Cervantes with me. He's going to help me during this presentation, and actually he's going to be kicking it off for us. So without further ado.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you're having a good evening. And just like Deputy Chief Mikulik, I am looking forward to the opportunity to continue this conversation, and to all the candidates tonight. Good job. All right. So the last presentation focused on operational considerations, how the ordinance definitions would apply in practice, and what compliance would require. This presentation will follow up on that work. We will discuss the tools council presented more information on, we will discuss the tools council requested more information on, explain how we use them, and present the purpose definition language, the proposed definition language that emerged from those discussions. Following the last presentation, the council identified specific tools from our technology inventory and requested additional information on each one of those. It is worth noting that not all of the requested tools appear in this section. Some will be addressed later in the presentation. As Deputy Chief Mikulik said in his previous presentation, the original inventory was intentionally broad. It was compiled in good faith, using an expansive understanding of the term technology to be exhaustive rather than selective. Not every tool on that list is one that we regularly use or one that is used in the same way. The tools shown here are organized by function: biometrics and DNA, intelligence sharing, open source and social media, and cybersecurity. For biometrics and DNA, these are two state or national government-managed systems that law enforcement agencies across the country access for identification purposes. Those are CODIS and AFIS. CODIS has two databases. One is national, run by the FBI, and one is state CODIS, run by the Illinois State Police. Each of them allow law enforcement agencies to compare DNA profiles from crime scenes with known lawfully collected profiles to assist in criminal investigations. Again, these are identifications. CODIS is used on a case-by-case basis when DNA evidence is present and a comparison is warranted. AFIS is the National fingerprint identification system. Officers submit and compare fingerprints to identify individuals, confirm identities, and check criminal histories. This is a daily function and is part of routine investigative work. The police department also uses this for background checks. Both systems operate under strict federal and state control. Access is governed by law, audited regularly, and misuse carries criminal penalties. As we discussed in our last presentation, these are not open-ended tools. They are regulated systems used for defined investigative purposes. The next two are intelligence sharing. One is EPIC, and the other is Interpol. The two systems support information sharing across agencies. One is domestic and one is international. EPIC stands for the El Paso Intelligence Center. It is a DNA-operated fusion center. We use it to share and receive intelligence on things such as drug trafficking, human smuggling, and other interstate crimes. It is a collaborative resource, not a surveillance tool. Interpol 24/7 is a secure communications network for sharing criminal intelligence across national borders. If we use it, it would be to exchange information with international law enforcement partners, wanted persons notices, travel movements, and links to transnational crime. Both systems are access controlled and governed by federal law. Next is open source and social media. This category covers publicly accessible platforms and websites such as social media search engines and other open sources. We use these to identify leads, corroborate information, locate witnesses or missing persons, and support active investigations. In general, the information we access is information that users have chose to make public. As we established in the last presentation, accessing publicly available information for an investigative purpose is not surveillance. Public access and systematic monitoring are not the same thing. The ordinance is designed to regulate the latter, and these tools do not constitute that. The next is cybersecurity, Shodan specifically. It's a search engine that indexes publicly accessible internet-connected devices and services based on information they openly broadcast. It is used to identify devices and services publicly exposed online that may be relevant to cybersecurity incidents, criminal investigation, or infrastructure risk assessments. Like the open source tools on the previous slide, Shodan operates on publicly available information. It requires a login and is used by our digital forensics examiner or our criminal intelligence analyst. It does not access private networks or restricted data. These are tools that are not currently used by the Urbana Police Department, but you guys requested information on. This slide shows tools that were in our original inventory but are no longer used by the police department. Some were included because we have encountered them in limited circumstances or may encounter them in the future. Others were included simply because our approach in the original inventory was to be exhaustive rather than selective. CrowdTangle is no longer operational. Meta discontinued in 2024. DataMiner and Geofedia are social media monitoring platforms that we do not subscribe to or access. ICJIA's data portal is a public-facing research resource, not an investigative tool. IDENT is a federal biometric system that we do not have independent access to. PlateLogic is a license plate reader platform that we do not use. X1 Social Discovery is a social media analysis tool that we do not have or use.
The tools we just walked through tell you something important about how law enforcement operates across the country. That context is essential to understanding the definition work that follows. When you look at how other cities have approached surveillance ordinance language, a consistent pattern emerges. Federally managed databases, intelligence sharing networks, and publicly available platforms are not regarded as surveillance. Leading cities like San Francisco, Oakland, and Seattle all define surveillance technology as devices or software primarily intended to collect information associated with individuals over time. Under those frameworks, federally governed criminal justice databases like CODIS, APHIS, and NCIC are consistently treated differently, and well-drafted ordinances explicitly carve them out. The same distinction applies to open source and social media use. Manually accessing publicly available information for specific investigative purpose is treated differently from deploying a systematic social media monitoring software. Our last presentation identified 3 areas where the current ordinance language created operational problems: the definitions of surveillance, surveillance technology, and exigent circumstances. The definitions we are proposing are designed to bring the ordinance in line with the established standards that have guided surveillance oversight ordinances in cities across the country. Under the current language, there is no distinction between looking something up and surveilling someone. Every day, officers run database queries, check criminal histories, and pull up publicly available information as part of routine investigative work. None of that is surveillance, but under the current definition, all of it would be captured. Our proposed language establishes that threshold: intentional, ongoing, or programmatic. In plain terms, it means the ordinance is focused on what surveillance is rather than what it is not, building a picture of a person's life by collecting and connecting data points over time. A single database query does not do that. Systematic monitoring does, and that is the line that our proposed language would draw. The carve-out for warrant-based investigations reflects that same principle. When a judge has authorized investigative activity, oversight has already occurred at the highest level that our legal system recognizes. So here's our proposed full language. This definition has 2 parts. The first establishes what surveillance is. It's intentional, ongoing, or pragmatic monitoring through technology to collect, aggregate, or analyze information over time. The second establishes what it is not. It's also worth noting that this framework is not unique amongst existing surveillance ordinances. In addition to the multiple examples we gave in our last presentation, Madison, Wisconsin, whose surveillance ordinance is widely regarded as one of the more expansive in the Midwest, recognizes this same basic distinction. Their definition of surveillance technology explicitly excludes records management systems, digital fingerprinting systems, and computer-aided dispatch. And that brings us back to where we started. The tools that Deputy Chief Cervantes walked us through at the beginning of this presentation, federally managed databases, intelligence sharing networks, and publicly available platforms do not meet this definition. Under our proposed language, this is not a question that would be left open for interpretation. It is a conclusion that the definition itself produces. The same problem shows up in the definition of surveillance technology, and in some ways it runs deeper. The current definition uses the phrase capable of, which creates a significant unintended reach. Nearly any device or system could technically fall within that scope, regardless of how it is actively used. The enumerated list creates the opposite problem. It is both narrow and static. Anything not specifically named can be argued to fall outside of the ordinance, and the only remedy is a formal amendment. Current ordinances are already showing the limitations of that model. Technology moves faster than legislation, and a list will always fall behind. Our proposed language addresses both problems. Shifting from capable of to primarily intended for captures technology that is genuinely designed for surveillance without sweeping in everything else. Replacing the enumerated list with functional categories keeps the ordinance up to date without requiring constant amendments as technology changes. And again, this is our proposed language for the definition. One element worth highlighting specifically is the third-party and interagency agreement language. The definition covers surveillance technology regardless of whether it is owned, licensed, leased, or accessed through a partner agency, not just Urbana alone. The definition also includes a specific exclusion for case-specific forensic analysis services, such as digital extractions conducted at state crime labs pursuant to a warrant. Those services are fundamentally different from ongoing surveillance systems. They're court-authorized, evidence-specific, and the department does not maintain an independent access to that technology. Earlier surveillance ordinance, like Oakland and Berkeley's, would technically capture those services, but ours would not. And that distinction reflects the lessons that those ordinances have taught us. The proposed definition also specifies what surveillance technology does not include. This is where the argument we have been building to comes full circle. The exclusions here are organized around a consistent principle. Tools that operate within existing legal frameworks, serve a clearly defined and limited function, and do not introduce new surveillance capability are excluded. This is recognition that not everything a police department uses is surveillance technology, and our ordinance should reflect that. Federal and state criminal justice databases, NCIC, LEADS, CODIS, they're all excluded when use is limited to case-specific queries. Body-worn cameras are excluded unless paired with real-time facial recognition or biometric analysis. Routine office equipment, building security systems, and cybersecurity tools protecting city infrastructure are also excluded. So are data analytics tools used to analyze lawfully collected data, provided they do not collect new surveillance data or enable real-time monitoring. The tools we walked through at the beginning of this presentation fall squarely within these exclusions.
This next slide covers the definition for exigent circumstance. The current and only definition in version 8 of this ordinance, which previously addressed exigent circumstances in section 6, appeared more applicable to the Illinois Emergency Management Agency's Act's definition of disaster, thus prompting the change in name. The police department strongly urges council to further consider and define what exigent circumstances are, as understood through the view of the lens of a law enforcement officer, and how those circumstances are considered and applied by the courts. The proposed language is incident-specific, time-sensitive, and grounded in the standard that federal courts apply nationwide and what law enforcement officers around the country are trained on in basic law enforcement academies. Thus, the authority rests with trained law enforcement officers, and use is limited to the conditions that give rise to that exigency. This slide covers what the Supreme Court has identified as circumstances that give rise to exigency. There are other circumstances that allow for us to deviate from the Fourth Amendment, such as consent, abandoned property, automobile exceptions, plain view, and search incident to arrest. But this is what the courts have identified as circumstances that give rise to exigency as we see them in law enforcement. This is the full proposed language. Again, exigent circumstances under this definition are incident-specific and expire when the conditions that created them expire. They do not authorize routine or ongoing use. So I didn't read the full definition that we're proposing because one of the other things that I did in conducting additional research was identified an alternative to adding the definition, identifying an alternative to adding the definition of exigent circumstances, which would be what Madison, Wisconsin did in their surveillance ordinance. They essentially use an exemption that they defined as emergency situations, and that is in the event of an emergency that poses an imminent and serious risk of death or substantial bodily harm, the department may acquire surveillance technology without prior common council approval for the sole purpose of preventing and mitigating such risk. If the department reasonably believes the acquisition of such surveillance technology will result in the reduction of said risk, the department's use of surveillance technology must cease when such risk no longer exists or the use of the surveillance technology can no longer reasonably reduce the risk. The department shall only apply for approval, the department shall apply for approval of their surveillance technology per subsection 4 of this ordinance within 30 days of the cessation of the risk that prompted the purchase of said technology. The use of the surveillance technology must be documented in the department's annual surveillance technology report. The reason this is important is because even if we didn't change the definition of exigent circumstances, this could be an alternative for an exemption overall, which has been used in other places and solely falls under what we believe matches those circumstances in which we would need to use technology that we may not already have or have approval for in an emergency situation to address something that's happening in real time.
We want to wrap up by addressing the use reports and use policies that were handed out. At the end of our last presentation, we referenced them. We sent those out in email prior to this, so hopefully you've had a chance to look over them. When talking with the council members, we wanted to make sure that we were on the same page in capturing the information that the council expects from us. So this is our best faith effort in capturing that information. So this is, again, not something that's we're saying is set in stone or even necessarily what we're suggesting, but we're hoping it'll be part of the ongoing conversation to ensure that we're giving the appropriate information that the council is requesting in the event that we were asking to acquire new surveillance technology. And with that, that is all we have. And so thank you once again, and we appreciate the time.
All right. Are there any questions? James.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just want to confirm what I understood is that for CODIS and IFAS, we're not going out and collecting DNA or fingerprints en masse to be able to send into this. Those are specifically, we're investigating this crime. These elements were detected at that crime scene, so now we're trying to attempt to identify who this person might have been, whether they were a witness or the assailant or what have you. Is that a correct understanding of those two?
So for APHIS, in general, it would be we're trying to identify the perpetrator of a crime, a witness. We would figure that out after the fact. CODIS, same thing. We're using it not only for identifying perpetrators, but potentially exclusionary factors that may exist. So if that person had a logical reason to have their fingerprint there or DNA in a certain place, then we could use that as well.
So if you knew someone was there, you could eliminate them if you had already talked to them, right? They're the ones who left those prints. So
yes.
They're not like the victim might have left prints and things like that. Okay.
Can I add to that, Mr. Quismary?
I guess, yeah,
Okay,
sure.
thank you. I would just say too that yes, these are incident specific. So we have to have a time, a place, a reason for why we're collecting.
That's what
them.
I was getting at.
Yes.
We're not just, picking up cigarette butts off the street
Correct.
and sitting in that
Yes.
DNA. That
Incident and investigative specific.
And then the slide that had the things that were listed that are not used either because they don't exist anymore or you're just not using them. Any one of those, if there were to be a moment where they become useful again, you would intend to bring those back as a thing to be approved because of what they do. Did I understand that correctly, or are they just off the table right now because they're not in the mix? If you were thinking about bringing them back to the mix, there'd be a discussion about whether they fit the ordinance and whether we go through the process.
Yes, that's the question or the answer to that is that we're not using them now, and if we were to use them in the future, they would have to be considered of whatever final definition we go with as surveillance or surveillance technology, and that if they do fall under that, yes,
Because they
we would.
do kind of feel like that programmatic, intentional
Yes.
mining of data kind of thing, which would fall under the definition.
Yes, correct.
That
And-
you're proposing and would have to come through the process.
Yes, if something is falls under that definition, absolutely.
All right, let's see. I think that's everything from my questions. Thank you.
Chris?
My question is for Matt Roshley. Matt, do you remember, did the Champaign Police use Facebook to surveil where the big parties were going to happen during unofficial St. Patrick's celebrations?
Did they use Facebook to surveil? I don't recall specifically. I can tell you, having been the deputy liquor commissioner in Champaign for about 9 years, that as unofficial approach, the liquor enforcement sergeant and folks who worked in that capacity, as well as even folks in the mayor's office, would monitor social media to get a sense of what to expect in terms of turnout, how many people were coming in from out of town, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know that I would refer to that as surveillance, but yeah, it was a tool that was used for sure.
Okay.
Grace?
Thanks for the further information. Kind of a lot to take in with the slides and the talking at the same time. So usual request, if you could send us these slides, that'd be helpful. Maybe any other notes you have typed out, if that's easy. I'm still maybe not quite clear what it means with like ident, that we don't have independent access. And I don't quite understand with Shodan, what you mean with like it's public information, and only certain people use it. I guess I'm still not clear on those. Doesn't have to be a now thing, but it can be. Yes, I have another question, unless you want to say anything on that. Otherwise, a follow-up is totally fine.
I'll give it a short answer. With those systems, what the purpose of saying that we don't have access or that we don't control access to them is that they're federally managed systems. We just query evidence from them. So they would be databases that are controlled by another entity, and that we would basically ask for permission to access that data in certain circumstances. I'll say about Shodan and ident specifically, as Deputy Chief Cervantes mentioned, this would be a question for our digital forensic expert or our criminal intelligence analyst. Those are the ones that use those tools specifically, so my knowledge exactly of how they're used and queried isn't great, so I would defer to them. But I can certainly follow up with them and have them get you those answers afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. And then just to clarify, so you're saying the ident, automated biometric identification system, is owned and operated by the Department of Homeland Security, but we do access it by querying information, right?
I don't know that specifically, honestly. When we were going through this list, there were several that were included on that previous list that Deputy Chief Cervantes and I have no knowledge of the department ever using. I think they were included as some of these other tools that we use will query an aggregate of tools. So I think he mentioned Epic was one of them, the El Paso. It's a database that comes in for us, and we can share information with them. But this one specifically, ident, I don't believe we've used that or are currently using it.
And then because I appreciate that this list has changed, and so I think I might be confusing the previous one, but it looks like on this one there's nothing that has the facial recognition, and I felt like in an earlier iteration there was, which I understand that one was exhaustive, but just want to confirm that there is no third-party facial recognition databases on this list of things that are or may realistically be used.
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
All right. Chandra, did you have any questions? All right. Administrator White, the floor is yours. Oh, I am so sorry. Sharice.
I think the one thing that I want to clarify is regarding exigent circumstances. Okay. And so with exigent circumstances, you are able to enter one's home if, for example, a wellness check. That would be considered an exigent circumstance.
Yes.
In some situations, yes.
Okay, or a hostage situation where somebody may be in a particular situation, and you are going to get the perp, so to speak. You don't need to have a search warrant for that, or because someone's life may be in danger.
Correct.
Okay, and I just want to clarify how that works for sure. So if you want to give me any more examples on that.
Sure. As it relates to life, that's an easy one. If we're driving down the street and we hear somebody screaming for help, we don't have to wait for a warrant because the immediacy of us to intervene in that situation is there, and the courts recognize that. That's part of our job, to go in and to potentially help that person to stop either, whether it be a threat or a medical situation. So that is one exemption to the search warrant. When it comes to surveillance and property, things of those natures can be a little bit more complicated, a little bit harder to understand, but an example would be, say, for instance, that we didn't know that U of I had license plate readers that were mobile. Or I'm not saying that they do, I'm just saying as an example. And we're investigating a circumstance, we request license plate readers and find out that their parking division has mobile license plate readers, where one hit recently on a vehicle that we're looking for in a kidnapping, or something that requires us to have immediate action. Those are the circumstances that we're looking at. Or we're looking at potentially, say for instance, somebody we're looking at for homicide. A suspect flees the scene and we're chasing the suspect, and they throw a potential murder weapon or something out of the window, or it lands in the water. We don't have a drone, but U of I does. And we're saying, hey, can you guys help us out, stay with the property? If it's a bag of clothing that was used or anything like that, that they could use the drone to stay with that evidence so that we don't lose that evidence while we're focusing our attention on the suspect. So those are a few examples of where exigency would apply, but I'd be happy to give more if you'd like.
No, I just wanted to get what possibilities could happen regarding a potential situation where you may be able or may have to say these were exigent circumstances.
Yes, it's something that would be immediate, and one of the things that we suggest in the proposed language is we only use it for the time that we need it. We're not suggesting that we continue to use it, systematically, or to continue to monitor. It is when we need it at that time, and when that risk has been mitigated, then we can no longer use that, and we would obviously have to apply if we haven't had prior approval.
Thank you.
Mary Alice, I got you. I heard Chandra moving at the
Yeah,
end.
no
Chandra,
worries.
did you have something?
Hi, I didn't know.
Okay. All right. Mary Alice.
Yeah, actually, you bring up a really interesting point, and so we had a conversation, Grace, you were in that conversation, we were talking about exigent circumstances and different kinds of technology that maybe we can borrow from different law enforcement agencies, and so during that time, we were like, well, the drone is the easiest one, right? So we should have kind of already a use policy in place if there are opportunities that are immediate that we might need to use a drone. But just based on your conversation right now, I'm like, well, I didn't even think of being able to track evidence. And I guess so one thing I'm thinking about is it's not only the technology itself, but exigent circumstances is also the use of the technology. And I do think we have to be a bit gracious in the fact that hopefully we'll have something that's all-encompassing with a use policy on something that we don't own, but maybe we can borrow. But that grace would have to be some kind of outside, really specific case that we just didn't think about when we were doing the use policy and so forth. So those are my thoughts.
All right.
Sorry, Mayor, can I respond to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that brings up a good point, and I believe too we discussed it last time with the use reports, and we had discussed about putting exigent circumstances in the use reports, and I think that's a valid place to have it. It's a good place to have it for those specific technologies that we know about, that we ask about. But like you said, there can be countless scenarios where using something that we haven't considered is absolutely necessary within those exigent circumstances, and it's immediate, it's definable, it's limited, and with outside of the scope of the things we've already approved in those use reports. That's why we would argue that the importance of having it in the ordinance itself rather than the use reports.
Chris?
There was an exigent circumstance last January, right, when the DUI accident on Kohler happened. You guys used the U of I drone to search for the fleeing suspect, if I'm remembering that right. So, and it didn't work because it was 2 a.m. and under a canopy of trees. It's difficult to find someone at night with a drone. But I guess my question would be, when there is an exigent circumstance and you use a piece of technology, would you guys be okay with a report afterwards to council that, hey, we had to use this for this reason, and just to account for it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and a lot of the ordinances that we examined had exactly that. And I think it mirrors, too, when we have to use exigent circumstances in the street not involving technology. So, for instance, a partner and I were walking around South Urbana several years ago outside an apartment complex, and we could hear someone yelling for help inside the window of an apartment. We ran inside the hallway. We figured out where it was. It's definitely coming from this apartment. Banging on the door, nobody's answering the door, the door's locked, they're saying, help me, and we kick in the door. So we're using exigent circumstances in this instance, and it's not something that we can just say, well, that happened, and we don't tell anybody about it. It actually absolutely has to be reported in that incident. And I would say that surveillance technology used in exigent circumstances should absolutely be reported in that same manner.
All right. Grace.
And so it sounds like you're saying you would rather file a report afterwards for the use of every single exigent circumstance rather than just having that as an allowable use within the policy.
I think having it as a use in the policy gives us the groundwork to be able to use it, and reporting it after would be in addition to having that. And reporting it after would also not be as often as every time we use approved technology. So exigent circumstances would be much more rare than just the use of surveillance technology that were approved, if that makes sense.
Yes, just want to be clear that if you just had it as an authorized use in the policy, there's no need to do extra reporting and call it an exigent circumstance.
And I agree with you, but that use policy is only limited to that specific technology. Mm-hmm. And so if we had the need to use anything outside of that use report, any technology that fell outside of that use report would not cover the other technologies. For example, so if we had been approved for, let's say, license plate readers under the surveillance technology, and we get called out to an incident where a child in the middle of the summer is out in a cornfield, lost, and we're worried that they're going to, be lost out in the cornfield. We can't find them. We haven't been able to search them by walking through it. U of I has a drone, and they say we can just fly the drone over and find the person, kind of like the example that Mr. Evans gave. Having a use policy for exigent circumstances for ALPRs would not give us the ability to use a drone in that situation.
Correct, but the drone policy would. The drone policy that says for locating missing or endangered persons would cover that.
But that's assuming we had already been approved for a drone policy.
Yes, but that in theory, if this passes, every single surveillance technology that is used or we foresee may be used would have its own policy.
And to your point on that, yes, if we had the policy pre-approved, the purpose of this language is for us to have the coverall in case we miss something. Deputy Chief Mikulik gave a great example about the iCard swipers last time. We didn't know that one existed. That was a very valuable tool in locating somebody. That's what we're trying to get covered with that language in there in the event that there is an emergency, that we have that coverall so we don't miss something.
Makes sense. Yeah, just want to be clear that the way it's written now, when you have exigent circumstance as like Section 5 in this draft policy, this is requiring you to do an extra report within 30 days every time you use a drone when it was determined that immediate action was needed to prevent imminent harm or loss of life. If that were just an allowable use, that would just be allowed, and there wouldn't be afterwards exigent reporting. I just, and something we can definitely continue offline, but I just want to be clear that I think you're creating a lot more work for the department, and we accomplish the exact same thing by just having that in the policies.
I don't disagree with you fundamentally. What I'm saying is that having it just in the use policy per technology is the limiting factor.
And I was going to say, I understand the question. I understand what you're saying. It's essentially for us to have this, we have the ordinance put in place. In the case that something else was needed, you're covering your butt. So I'm not mad at additional coverage. If you like it, I love it. We'll present it, and we can keep it moving from that stance. I understand the scope
again,
of it.
we're not asking for anything that hasn't been done in the other ordinances that we've seen, and we're not asking for a loophole or anything, a way of getting technology approved.
Yep.
This is like, as you said, a cover.
Yep, I got
in
you.
that circumstance.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Darius? No.
Thank you for the police department. For our next department, we do have Public Works here today in case you all had any additional questions in regards to the MyoVision update that Vince sent out, excuse me. Any questions at this point? Yes, ma'am.
I guess not quite a question, but I'll just say something at least. I appreciate the update on that. I will say I got a little lost in some of the weeds and was hoping that some of the tech people understood a little bit better. So I don't have a good question, but thanks for the information, and I'm still trying to understand what some of it means.
All right. All right. All right. No. Anyone? Me either, Grace. All right. Go for it. Oh, we're off. All right. Seeing no more questions, at this time, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session in pursuant to 5 ILC.
I can do that.
Go for it. Thank you. I didn't want us to have to repeat it, but thank you, James.
I'd like to move that we go into closed session under 5 ILCS 120/2C3 to discuss the selection of a person to fill a public office as defined in the Open Meetings Act, including a vacancy in a public office when the public body is given power to appoint under law or ordinance, or the discipline, performance, or removal of the occupant of a public office when the public body is given the power to remove the occupant under law or ordinance.
I will second.
Motion made by James, seconded by Mary Alice. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey?
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
All right.
I think it's worth mentioning that we don't have any action after this.
Yes.
And there
So
won't be any action after this
to the
closed
public,
session.
yes, we will not have any action after this. We will come out of closed session and this meeting will be adjourned. To our candidates, thank you again and we'll talk soon.
Also, Chandra, you'll have to bear with me. I'll have to go to my office to get the recorder for the closed session as well as start the call upstairs in executive conference. So if you are calling in and it's not there yet, just give me a minute. I'll get there, I promise.
Okay, sounds good.
I move we go back into open session.
Second.
All right, we are back.
Got a roll call vote
Clerk, will
real
you-
quick.
If y'all will let me just get it out. Clerk, will you please call the roll? Jesus.
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey?
Here.
Councilmember Bishop? Councilmember Wilkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We are back. With no further business before this body, this meeting is adjourned. You all have a great night.